Hi, how's it going, folks? I'm Christian Perez, and this is New Jersey Revolution Radio. How we doing, folks? So I am Christian Perez, and I am hosting this episode of New Jersey Revolution Radio. If you are a regular fan of New Jersey Revolution Radio, or just Revolution Radio at this point, you know who I am. Glad to be here. It's the monthly show, so I'm your guy for tonight. Shout out to Brian. I think Brian's out there living his best life in Maine, so he'll probably pop in with a comment at some point. Shout out to Leah in the back, who's doing all of her hard work. So a couple things I want to talk about. Last night on the Idavox report, if you were lucky enough to catch the show, we had a really good conversation about who is David Grossman. Lieutenant David Grossman was a professor at West Point, which is incredibly problematic. And it turns he's the creator of the school of thought called Killology. It's basically this shoot first, ask questions later mentality. Number of police departments. When I say number of police departments, I mean an overwhelming amount of police departments throughout the country subscribe to. FBI, intelligence agencies subscribing to the writings and teachings of this man, David Grossman. As we talked about last night, it's incredibly problematic. Shootings, innocent people, a lot of murders have taken place in this country at the hands of police that can be tied back to this David Grossman and his Killology. So that's unfortunate. If you get a chance, please go back and watch last night's episode of the Idavox report. As always, it's informative. Shout out to Daryl and Brian. The next thing that I want to talk about this evening is tonight is Biden's first speech at Congress. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's at 9 p.m. We have to hear what he has to say. At the end of the day, it's Trump. Hopefully he has something good to say. Hopefully it's not disappointing. But tonight, when our show concludes at 9 p.m., switch over to CNN or wherever the heck you get your main news and see what President has to say. The one thing, or there's actually a couple things I want to touch on with Biden tonight, to touch on Biden tonight, as I said, is number one, Biden will be outlining what he's going to be calling the American Families Plan. And I have some notes here, and it says, number one, it's a $4 trillion spending proposal, which would invest hundreds of billions of dollars into education, childcare, and paid leave. Sounds good. Admittedly, this article is from Huffington Post, and they tend to fund over Democrats, so we don't know how committed the Democratic Party and Joe Biden are to this type of proposed legislation. But the measures being proposed, the American Families Plan, include making community college free. That's definitely a plus. I've always been in favor of subsidized education. Enhancing Pell Grants, good. I mean, students need that financial aid help. College costs way too much money, and if students get the Pell Grant aid, that's definitely a plus. Enhancing funding for recruiting and developing education workforce. We need more teachers, right? And other than this bigot that has out of the woodwork with his wife and Neptune, I would say that the overwhelming amount of teachers in this country are people, hardworking people, committed to the education of this nation's youth. The problem with education is not teachers. The problem with education is bad politicians, bad policy. As someone who used to work in public education, I believe in teachers, and I do believe in public education. There are no problems in public education, but we will get to that later tonight. Funding universal preschool, I think that's an excellent idea. We've seen that preschool helps with regards to preparation for kindergarten. Early intervention helps with expanding children's minds and making them better thinkers, critical thinkers, and just overall better students. So we need more universal preschool. I come from the great city of Long Branch, New Jersey. We have our own preschool, and it's a very successful preschool. Extending of free summer meals to children, a huge one. I remember growing up, there was a time when parents were financially struggling, And it was embarrassing, and it was very hard, and it was tough, and all of the social drama wrapped up in that. But if it wasn't for free lunch, it would have been very hard for my family to get by. I'm very proud of the fact that I got free lunch while I was in middle school. It means a lot. I was able to eat. I was able to help. It was able to help with my education by getting that meal. It helped my family out. And my family was not there were a number of families that were more worse off than my own. So if my family needed it, there's untold numbers of families that could have used lunch programs. The fact that they're extending it into the summer can only be a plus. There are children who, if they don't eat in school, do not eat. So it's important that there are families and children that can get the nutrition they need, at least hopefully, one meal out of the day. Well, it says free summer meal. So hopefully 2 meals a day subsidized, that can help. That helps families, that helps children. And no matter what you think about poverty, and if you're watching this show, you're probably not coming with a right-wing perspective of the poor, but children have to pay for their parents' decisions. I don't care if it's poverty. I don't care if it's immigration. Children should not have to pay for the crimes of their parents. So this plan would also extend or make permanent other existing measures. They didn't really go into what that was in the article. Biden's plan would cost $1.8 trillion, and the president, it says, and this is Huffington Post. It says, will seek to raise taxes on the wealthiest Americans to finance it. So let's hope that that's the case. Talking $1 trillion over a decade. It's money well spent. It's money spent on the youth. It's money spent on the future of this country. It's money spent on the human resources of the United States. I definitely support that plan. Another issue I wanted to talk about was this week was the 106th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. Now, in the Armenian genocide, experts say that up to 1.5 million Armenians were killed at the hand of the Ottoman Empire. Now, I say the Ottoman Empire. This is not the same Republic of Turkey that exists today. The president of Turkey, this guy Erdogan, he's another one of these little wannabe dictators, very much like Putin, very much like Trump, very much creeps we have coming out of Hungary and Poland. He's another little dictator, just a sad old man. And he's been on television freaking out and beating his chest. One of the best things was he actually came out and said, now I'm paraphrasing, well, if you accuse us of genocide, you can genocide against the Native Americans. And we're like, yeah, we know that. As Americans, we talk about that at Thanksgiving. Like, even the right wing among our Americans, hell, they're proud of it. So it makes you think that that's some kind of dig to Americans. It's more telling Erdogan and I don't know what he thinks of Americans. I heard stories of Turkish conservatives buying into this conspiracy theory that the United States wants to take Turkey peg. With no disrespect to the Turkish people, both in the United States and in Turkey, Americans think about Turkey. Americans don't think about Turkish people and their thoughts and their desires. I don't mean that to disrespect. I mean that as a matter of fact. Americans don't even know what Turkey is on a map. If you were to ask 10 random Americans to point out Turkey or Anatolia on a map, I would argue that a majority of them would not be able to find it. So, I mean, let's get into why Biden has decided now of all times to call the Armenian genocide what it is. It's definitely a genocide. Oof, look at this awesome image that Leah has posted for us. Number one, let's look at this image of Turkey. You see it there circled in the middle. Let's look at where Turkey is located strategically. Number one, it's next to it borders the Mediterranean Sea, it borders the Black Sea, and it borders the Aegean Sea. That's that body of water in between Greece and Turkey. It's incredibly close to Russia through the Black Sea, it borders Syria, it borders Iraq, where we've had soldiers for 20 years, and it borders Iran, where we've had a number of tensions. So Turkey is located on that peninsula. The peninsula that Turkey is on, we call that Anatolia. That is in the heart of 3 different continents. You see Turkey, they're just a hop, skip, and a jump from Egypt. They are located in Western Asia, in the Middle East, right? Bordering Persia and bordering Arabia, as well as bordering Russia. So it is incredibly important in terms of the United States' interests geopolitically. Every year, there's news coming out of the Middle East, coming out of Persia, coming out of Russia, which means every day that goes or every year that goes by, it would have been harder to call out Turkey for this genocide, because every year that goes by, it becomes more apparent that Turkey is necessary to the United States military interests in that part of the world. But I'm into what that means. Turkey is a NATO member. As you can see, it borders Iran, it borders Iraq, it borders Syria. They have, I want to say, tens of millions of Syrian refugees currently in Turkey at this time. As I said, Black Sea, Mediterranean Sea, and to repeat myself, it's at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa. It's the heart of the old Byzantine Empire, but I'm just bringing everybody at this point. But here's the situation. There are more Armenians in the United States than there are Turks in the United States. And when I looked this up, I saw about 350 million Turks in the United States, while there's over 400,000 Armenians in the United States. So what does that mean? This is the difference between electoral politics and real politics. Now, if you are campaigning for president, whether you're Barack Obama, whether you're Donald Trump, you campaign on calling the Armenian genocide what it is, a genocide, because you want to secure those votes of Armenian Americans. The problem is American presidents up until now, when they become president, they realize, as I said, how important Turkey is to geopolitics. Decide not to call out Turkey. But now, because of the poor leadership of Erdogan in Turkey, Turkish economy is tanking. Turkish approval ratings with all of their neighbors in the region has tanked. So we're at a point now where Turkey doesn't really have a lot of power politically. So what we can do is we can come in and we could say the Armenian genocide is a genocide. And what can Turkey do? What can they do? If they get mad and they snap at us or they do anything stupid, we hit them with sanctions. So their tanks even worse. His approval rating tanks even worse. Here's the reality of the situation. The capital of Turkey and the largest city in Turkey is Istanbul, not the capital, Ankara. The opposition party just won their election in Istanbul. A dire warning for Erdogan's party. He's losing power. He's losing his grip. And the right-wing lie that got Donald Trump elected, that gets Vladimir Putin and all these little wannabe right-wing dictators elected, it's working in Turkey. The reality is starting to come forth. The light is starting to shine through. What we see is young Turks not buying into the right-wing lies of Erdogan, not willing to go along with his program. So you see someone like he's lost. What can he do other than get right? He's made a comments. He criticized us for the genocide of the Native Americans, but there's very little he can do. Without the support of the United States, that's what little support he has left. So now I believe the young Turks used the quote, was the time to pull the Band-Aid off. Every year that goes by was going to show that we were more and more dependent on Turkey. We don't need that. And we're not in a position to dictate to us. So this is definitely a good thing. I have been very critical of Joe Biden. I will continue to be very critical of Joe Biden, but when he does something right, 106 years to call this genocide what it was, genocide. And at their best, the Turks say, hey, there's only 300,000 people. That's not a good thing. That doesn't matter. Genocide is when you try to kill in part of or in total an entire ethnic. That's what they tried to do. The context, it's World War I. The Turks are at war. All right. There is a sizable Armenian population in Turkey, a Christian Armenian population that is in some ways related to, sympathetic to the Russian Orthodox Church. So the Turkish government decides to relocate all the people. Sound familiar? And in that relocation led to the deaths of up to 1.5 million individuals. Those of you in Plymouth County, in the great state of New Jersey, you can come to Brookdale Community College and look at the Change exhibit. It's an ongoing exhibit. Well, before the pandemic, it's an ongoing exhibit on genocides, and you can come check it out, and you should. The Armenian genocide was just that, genocide. And I applaud Joe Biden for calling it that. I'm not going to buy into this myth of the United States being some kind of moral leader. We're not, right? When it comes to global politics, we need to put pressure on China, at least if you favor American foreign interests. The goal is to put pressure on China for their treatment of the Uyghur Muslims. So if we are going to do that, we have to also say genocide is genocide no matter who does it. Thank you, Warren. Genocide is genocide no matter who does it. It doesn't matter, right? We're going to call out the Chinese. We also have to call out the Turks, right? So geopolitically, there are certain countries that are not in the American sphere of influence, so you see Western media targeting them, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Russia, whether it's Iran, whether it's Turkey, whether it's China. These are countries that are not in the American or the quote-unquote Western sphere of influence. Now, I have different opinions about all these different countries, but that's beside the point. The fact of the matter, because they're not playing ball with the U.S., they will now be demonized. I will say that some of them deserve demonization, like Iran, Turkey. Some of them don't, like Venezuela or Cuba, but that's a conversation another day. One more thing I want to touch on was it Warren? Hopefully we can get Joe Biden to finally have the U.S. government apologize to Black Americans for slavery. Brother, I don't see this country ever apologizing for slavery. I hope it happens, but if we were to apologize for slavery, at least 1/3 and up to 50% of this country would have a collective meltdown. Let's hope, and let's hope for what's best in the future. But I do want to touch on Tucker Carlson. So for those of you that don't know who Tucker Carlson is, Tucker Carlson's mommy is the heir to the Tyson Foods, like crappy TV dinners that, when people are too lazy to cook, they eat these tasteless TV dinners. That's Tucker Carlson's family. This is a man who has never had to work a serious full day of work in his life, who is now making millions of dollars on the air, lying to people and misinforming people. This is what he does. This is the guy who spread the white genocide myth in South Africa, gave his valuable time to spread a conspiracy theory about gangs of Black people running around South Africa killing white South Africans. But that's not the worst of it. It came out weeks ago that he was a member in college of an organization called the Dan White Society. Tucker Carlson was a member of the Dan White Society. Do we know who Dan White was? 100 points to the winner. Dan White was the person who executed Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was a politician in, I believe it was New York City, the openly gay, San Francisco. I'm sorry, San Francisco. My wife is correcting me. San Francisco. He was probably the gay man elected office, and it was very hard for him to get the support of a number of liberal organizations and local unions, but he did it. And this guy, Dan White, executed him. And Tucker Carlson was a member of the Dan White Society in college. So this is who we're dealing with when we talk about Tucker Carlson. So what he decided to add to the discourse this week, and I'm paraphrasing, is he came out and he said to his fans, his supporters, whoever these human beings are that listen to his show, that if you see a child with a mask on, that not only should you confront the parents, but you should call the police because it's child abuse. And you should treat it the exact same way as if you saw someone, their child in Walmart. This is Tucker Carlson. The right wing is probably bankrupt in this country. Morally, politically, there is nothing that they could bring to the table. And last night we showed that even when they're well-intentioned, when it comes to policing, they can't help but to be racist, ignorant, and bigoted. There is no good coming out of Tucker Carlson showing that there's a movement to try and get his sponsors to stop sponsoring. Unfortunately, there are too many racist people in this country, and I don't see Carlson going anywhere. So again, we can hope that Tucker Carlson is eventually held accountable and he can go away. A couple more points I want to talk about is there was a poll taken in Brazil recently, and Luiz Ignacio Lula da Silva, former president of Brazil, the head of the Workers' Party in Brazil, has been cleared of all former charges, formerly the #1 political prisoner on planet Earth. Not only was he cleared of all his charges, but the judge that sent him away to jail is now being investigated for crimes. And he's currently polling higher. Thank you, Warren. He is currently polling higher the interim president, Bolsonaro. And for those of us that don't know Bolsonaro, he's the goof who blamed the Amazon fires on Leonardo DiCaprio, former low-level member of the dictatorship of Brazil, all around wannabe dictator, very much a wannabe Erdogan, a wannabe Trump. buying into a lot of Trump's conspiracy theories. Hopefully the Brazilian people do the right thing and they get him out of office. I mean, the guy needs to be held accountable. And if you ask me, he should be held. He should be arrested. He should be put behind bars. The guy is an absolute criminal. Cuba has a new first secretary of the Communist Party, a guy of Miguel Diaz-Canel, the guy who was actually born in 1960. So he was after the revolution. Not only is this the first time that there will be a non-Castro run Cuba, this is the first time it's not somebody who's part of revolutionary leadership. The Politburo just had their elections, and I believe there's 14 members of the Cuban Politburo. 4 of them are, I think, 77 years old, but they're original first wave revolutionaries, and the rest of them are between 50 and 60 years old. So they are older, but I hope Cuba does hold on to their revolutionary leadership. We can criticize the Cuban Revolution, but ultimately I am a supporter of the Cuban Revolution, and despite the bad they've done, they've made a number of advancements in that country, despite embargo from the United States. So pretty much everything that I wanted to touch on my for those of you that missed the news this week, Levar Burton will be hosting Jeopardy in some. I'm going to say it's either in June or July. And for me, I've been all about that on social media. I love Jeopardy. I love Jeopardy, but I love Star Trek: The Next Generation. I learned how to read watching Reading Rainbow. I love LeVar. I want him to host the show. But the best news, LeVar Burton this week, I think he was on The View, and Meghan McCain tried to come for LeVar, and LeVar had to shut her down. She made some whining comment about cancel culture, and he said, "We don't have cancel culture, we have consequence culture." And I was like, that's awesome. He succinctly hit the nail on the head, got right to the point. We don't have cancel culture, we have consequence culture. Right? You say something great, you need to be held accountable. When you do something bigoted, you need to be accountable. Hopefully, as a society, we could start to hold these people accountable, and we can progress as a society. Warren, LeVar Burton is great. He is great. I love me some LeVar Burton. I want him to be the host of Jeopardy. Jeopardy is one of the few shows I watch every episode. My wife and I watched every single episode of Jeopardy for years. We love Jeopardy. But that being said, I think that's all the notes that I wanted to talk about. Sia, if special guest Jennifer is backstage, if you want to let her on, that would be great. How we doing, Jennifer?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Always. You are always welcome on Revolution Radio. Always welcome. We love our local activists, and you got $1 million smile. We love to have you on the show, Jennifer. You're always doing the good work. Before we get into what you've been doing, there's a couple things that I wanted to run by you. I wanted to get your opinion. The first is some good news came out, and I know we live in a world where bad news seems to be constant and nonstop. But it just came out today that federal prosecutors indicted the 3 men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery on hate crime and attempted kidnapping charges. How you feel about that, Jennifer?
I'm almost afraid to take a breath. Awesome. I'm excited. That's awesome. But the last time I took a breath, they killed 3 more people that week. And it's just.
When you say that week, you mean last week?
Yeah. So it was within an hour, right? Of the verdict. There was another dead kid. And then there was 1-2 days before that. And
they're filtering out now. They didn't even to keep it under wraps. Right. It's all coming out now.
And it's not like it wasn't happening before. It's just a constant barrage of really horrific information, and it's really hard to process. So while you want to be happy about some kind of, at least what America considers justice being served, because I have a very different idea of what justice looks like. I don't know. I really want to be excited about it. I just have a hard time. I really do.
Yeah. I feel like I know what you're saying. It's okay to feel, but to be excited, it's well, with Chauvin case, I turned to my wife and I said, what's funny is, I always forget this. I was like, all right, Chauvin was found guilty on all charges. That's excellent. But I turned to my wife and I was like, this is not justice. And she looked at me. She said, it's not justice, it's accountability. And then that was the exact narrative that everybody jumped on. And it's just for me, I don't have to deal with this again.
Right. But you know what? I don't even think it's accountability. Punishment and accountability are two different things, right? So he's going to be punished, but he's not going to be held accountable. So as far as he's concerned, he's still a victim. At no point is he going to have to be held accountable to the family. At no point is he going to have to face what he did on any real level. He's not going to be held accountable to the community that he served for the harm that he did. None of that. Right. There was all of these protests. There was riots. There was, uprisings. There was all of these things that happened as a result of the trauma of hundreds of millions of people watching him murder that man on camera. And he has no accountability for any of that. He gets to go sit in a cage and have 3 hots in a cot and shit in the same room that he sleeps in for the next however many years that they tend to keep him. That is not justice.
They're not putting him with general population. I mean, those police officers, I mean, look, in that narrative, and piggybacking on what you said, Jennifer, in that universe, and that right-wing universe, he's a hero. And he's being victimized, right? This is the Trumper world, right? In a world where Donald Trump won the election. This is part, right? Right? This is part of that. Like, no, they're still digging.
I know, but they're terrifying, aren't they? Scary. Like when
scary,
like you can't even debate them.
You
can't. Like, what do you even say?
Yeah,
you're what? Okay, yeah. You're not even here. You're not here with us.
Yeah, it's like you saw in video, he's like, his hands are in his pockets, right? Mm-hmm. When your hands are in your pocket, it means it's time to relax, which means murdering this guy. He's laid back on camera with a crowd of people around him. He thought he was getting away, right? That same mentality on January 6th, that people thought that they could assault the Capitol and then just go back to work on Monday.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, what they're trying to do.
Even if he didn't get away with it, which is always a possibility when you commit a crime on camera, right? Even if he didn't get away with it, he martyred himself to whoever these lunatics are that voted for that guy and have all of this white supremacist ideology that they don't want to call white supremacist ideology. So he still martyred himself and is super proud of what he did. And he knows that all of these people have his back. So he'll be home. They'll do a GoFundMe to make sure that all of his expenses are taken care of while he's gone. And there will be zero accountability for what he did. None.
Yeah. And a lot of it, it's very hard for me to like read up on a lot of this stuff because it always frustrates me, whether it's movies or media. It's hard for me to read the articles, watch the videos, because I'm just like always depressing. It's always draining. And it's like already the narrative. I mean, well-intentioned police around Chauvin is this idea that, well, he was a bad apple, that there was something wrong with the training, that there's no institutional violence, that there's no institutional racism. It's always about deflecting, right? So I remember we were talking before we opened today, we're in the green room and we're chatting, and you said, I mean, they're willing to sell Chauvin out, right? And Chauvin, he's going to go, he's going to do his time, but it's going to continue. And we saw it happening. I mean,
you get back into the corner, you shoot the hostage.
Yeah.
That's what you do. So they shot him. They let him go because he was just, he's one of how many, and they need to keep the system together. And if they're not going to, and it doesn't seem that they are, if they're not going to confront all of these problems in policing, right? And where policing came from, because it's really just slave patrols in 2021. So if they're not going to confront all of those things and change the way that they move, then they have to make some concessions so that it looks like they give a crap how people feel about them.
It's like over the summer when they were kneeling with Black Lives Matter. It's all symbolic. How did that? I got to ask you, like, two-parter. One, did anybody do it by you? Okay. So
they did it.
What were you thinking when you're sitting there? You're like, what? Like, were you like going through the motion?
The George Floyd protest right before they unleashed the state police and police from 5 different municipalities on
Brian was talking about that.
200 kids. Seriously, they had snipers on
released
roofs.
drones.
They had snipers on roofs
in Asbury. in Asbury.
Asbury, waiting for what exactly? And then they enacted a curfew like 2 hours before the curfew. And when people didn't go outside, and most of those people were standing in the police station parking lot talking to police.
Yeah.
Who in that conversation decided that they were going to kneel in solidarity and then unleash the state police on a bunch of kids and call it a riot.
For those fans out there that don't realize, Asbury is one of the more progressive towns in New Jersey, right? God. The Democratic Party is very and this isn't Flemington. We're not talking about like South Jersey. This is in liberal Asbury Park that Black Lives Matter activists have to be dealing with this. I can't even imagine how frustrating it is to it's hypocrisy real time. It's like I said, it's like Black Lives Matter, release the hounds. It's like a Simpsons villain. Like I don't even know how to react to it.
So I have a friend who was working inside, and they let me know the day before that the state police were holed up in a building that had been closed for years that used to be a state police substation on 66, and they opened it up and filled it up with cops the day before. So it's not like they didn't know. But they called in all of those municipalities, and then when nothing happened, they released them anyway, so that they could justify spending all the money that they spent for something that didn't happen.
I would love to know how much money they spend on police, and I'm just going to put this out. I haven't worked.
I can tell you in Asbury.
Oh, okay. Give me a second, because I just want to throw this out there to my people. I used to be a house manager in arts theater, and whenever we would have shows, we would bring police. To do security. The college would. It was at Kane College.
Right.
These cops were getting paid $75 an hour to work security. And we're talking at least 10, 15 for about 5 or 6 hours. So, I mean, just to give you an idea, do you know how much money, Jennifer, how money was spent? I mean, because you're talking a significant amount of like outside police that were brought.
But I don't know how much money they spent that day, but I know yearly Asbury Park spends about 30% of the city budget on policing, which is about $11 million on policing. And just to juxtapose that, $100,000 on social services.
So Asbury spends $100,000 a year on social services and up to, you're saying, $11 million on police.
Yep. $11 million to $100,000.
30% of the annual city budget is spent on police. So up to almost a third, $11 million. Unbelievable. Yeah.
And most of them are just sitting in their cars outside of construction sites. Like, it's not like they're doing something that somebody else can't do.
Yeah, I don't have the data in front of me, but I know there was a study done on like police and how much actual like crime being police do. Again, if you subscribe to the Killology or the David Grossman or the Forrest Institute, what was that? Oh, the guy's name was William Lewinsky. I'm sorry, trashing your name. Like, there's this idea that there's like this one cops and they're always out there. It's the same old lie over and over again.
And when there is no crime, they create it. They create crime. So they change legislation so that they have something to chase, something to do. Prohibition would stop most of the crime. It would end it. But there is some good news in New Jersey policing. Gruel, at the beginning of last week, announced that he was ending mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenses.
They're ending mandatory minimums for nonviolent offenses. So that's great. I'm glad catching up with like 100 years ago. That's good. I mean, it killed me. Like, this is what always killed me. It's like potheads. All right. Like they're potheads. They're not hurting anybody. Like a crackhead or a heroin addict. It's like, all right, at best you get them help. At worst, you stick a foot in their ass. You don't need to lock people up, beat them up, victimize these people. This is the $11 million in Asbury that can go towards drug treatment, rehabilitation, job training, all these programs. Instead, it's just, let's just spend that money to crack skulls. I don't know. It's frustrating to me.
But I mean, New Jersey doesn't have any private prisons. They keep all that money in-house.
Well, there were a couple up north that they were using to lock up immigrants. That's the one the private prisons are for.
So all of the aftercare programs are run by CCI and So they are private companies come in and run the aftercare programs, recidivism programs, and the detention centers. But we don't have any actual prisons that are that are for profit. All of our aftercare is for profit, but the prisons themselves, we keep that money for us.
Do you know that CCI is actually one of the larger for-profit prison corporations out there? That I've seen in my research. I mean, but this is a country that really understood crime and punishment, that really understood how to hold people accountable properly. In this country, we like to punish people, but we don't like to rehabilitate them. We go, I've been to Asbury Park 1,000 times. Well, I'm a Long Branch guy, so you're still the high school rivals.
I went to Long Branch schools, but listen,
oh, you did?
I grew up in Long Branch, but Asbury raised me.
Oh, Asbury raised you. All right, go Green Wave. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that.
Up. Yeah, I went to school. I have Green Wave sweatshirts in there somewhere still.
There you go. Good. Wear them next time. Mandatory. You better wear a Green Wave sweatshirt next time. We'll do it.
Okay, we'll see if I can still fit
I come from right. That's me. Let me put my old varsity jacket. No, it smells like the basement.
Yeah, I don't think it was a triple D yet.
Yeah.
But I was pregnant that last year, so I might fit in one of them.
Okay. Actually, this June would be the 20th anniversary from when I graduated from high school. But I think I told them 10 years ago, I was like, take me off that list. I'm not going to any reunions. But I think for some reason, I think the reunion got canceled this year. That might have there's some reason out there.
I don't know why I went to my 20th, but I went. And I don't know, it made me feel old. And
yeah, I just feel like I grew up in the same house. Right, my parents are still there. I'm on Facebook. If you want to find me, you know how to find me. Right. If I want a reunion, I'll go to Jack Avenue in Long Branch, and that's a reunion for me. Right. I might even get drunk and pick a fight with somebody. You know what I mean? But like like I don't need to spend money, put on a suit to be fake with people that I was fake with 20 years ago. I didn't care about them 20 years.
Any given Saturday.
Jack, what time is it? It's 8:30 on Wednesday. There's probably 10 people I went to high school with at Jack's. Right,
let's go get some wings. We'll go to Jack's. We'll go to Junior's.
Yeah, the pierogi pizza.
We'll see everybody between Jack's, Junior's, and the Lighthouse. You'll see everybody you went to high school.
House late at night. Hit up the good icy. Oh man, I gotta love the local stuff. Before we get happy, there's another thing I wanted to bring up to you, Jennifer. It was something you had posted on Facebook. So I don't believe it was something you had found, but you had reposted. There were a number of stickers, flyers, whatever they were, posted all around Asbury Park from an organization called the NJEHA, the New Jersey European Heritage Association. So I'm not going to give any name to any of the clowns involved, the lowlives involved, but I do want to bring this up. Basically just your typical lazy white supremacy. I believe like it just to show you the intellectual depth of the people we're dealing with, right? Instead of Lives Matter, they had, I think it was burn, loot, murder. They put on like ready. Okay. So for those of you that are interested, you can go online and Google NJEHA, and here we go. And then type up ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. And literally they have a whole article on these people. So right off that, these are the people, the same people spreading lies about white genocide and how white people are an endangered species. It's the same lies about immigrants taking over the country and they're being led by Jewish people. It's more anti-Semitism, more racism. And this is New Jersey, right? This is what we deal with in New Jersey. And I think a lot of our listeners realize that New Jersey representatives, almost every hate group country, of them are in Monmouth County. And I think, unfortunately, we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to address that. And thankfully, I work at Brookdale. A couple of years ago, there was similar literature found in Monmouth County, and I was able to address that to a meeting of my peers. But I don't know what can you tell us about this, Jennifer? Like what how is the community responding? I see it here. It's just they're not even a new organization. Obviously, created in 2018, created under the Trump administration. This is what we expected. Here we see some of their bad propaganda. What do you think, Jennifer?
I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is the same organization. it's like an offshoot of the Proud Boys that hang out in Bradley Beach, right? A couple of years ago, I don't know if it was before or during the 2016 election, there was posters up and down Cookman Avenue that had Hitler on them, and there was, I don't know, stuff about undocumented people and Black people and crime and just all the things. Jews, they don't skip a beat with anything.
Never.
They really don't. But I guess it was within a couple of hours that the stickers went up on the boardwalk. Jason works on the boardwalk and he will have none of that shit. So Jason hopped in the group chat and he was like, so I don't know who these people are, but I think you guys should know about this. And the city sent, well, I don't know if it was city workers or if it was the Madison Marquette sanitation workers walked up and down the boardwalk and removed all the ones that they could. It got reported to the police. A little thing went out on Nixle that the police are investigating.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly knew who they were before the police even said they were investigating, so it doesn't take much. And I haven't heard anything else about it. But, you know, the neoliberals really haven't said much this time. Last time they were all in an uproar. Maybe they came down too fast. This time they really aren't. Like there's not really a huge community response. There's been, I mean, there was a response from us. I don't know if you know, Tion did a couple of lives because he was so angry. And he was on Facebook Live and he went looking for him and we were going to put Black Unity stickers over them, but we didn't find any. The city got to them too fast. Yeah, so they, like, I don't know, they're acting like they care, but they made a fertile ground for these people to come, right? So like they made it so that they're comfortable coming here. Because I promise you, 15 years ago, not near one white supremacist was walking anywhere up and near through Asbury Park. They just were not coming here. This was not the place for you. Somebody catch you putting up that sticker and you're not leaving here. And everybody knew it. It just wasn't the place to do it. So the people that came and made fertile ground for white supremacists to feel comfortable are now like, oh my God, I can't believe
where they come from. How do they get here? I mean, and that's what cracks me up. Like when I think Asbury Park, again, I'm born and raised in Monmouth County. I'm a Long Branch boy. When I think of the communities in Asbury Park, I think Black people and gay people. It's like this is not the place. I mean, so I'm wrong. So I guess if you are a bigot, if you are a hate monger, if you're someone like, I guess Asbury Park is the place where you want to go. You want to go where these communities are in an attempt to stoke fear, in an attempt to stoke terror. But I mean, I have more faith in the people of Asbury to not allow this to happen. I think this is somebody who probably under the cover of darkness, this is not somebody who would have had the guts to do this. But I have gotten reports that they have shown up to the Monmouth County Fair and have handed out literature.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they show up a bunch of places. It wasn't that long ago that they were in Wall Township. And I guess they don't know much about where they were because they went into the Muse. Do you know the Muse at Wall Township?
No,
it's like it's low income housing, subsidized housing that a bunch of people, like when the projects got leveled around here, a bunch of people got sent to the Muse. So it's like low income Black and undocumented people and like children of undocumented people. Like there's nobody white in there basically, and they went and they put flyers on people's mailboxes and people were like, where do you think you are you crazy? Let me catch you.
I think that's an attempt to stoke fear. That's attempted terrorism. But I mean it's I mean these are people that
they're not scary.
Yeah, these are people that
Nobody's
are not
afraid of individual. That's my thing. So we're not afraid of individual white supremacists, right? I don't give a crap about a guy in khaki pants with a tiki torch. I'm not concerned with him. I am concerned with policies that support white supremacy, right? I'm concerned with systems like gentrification that support white supremacy. I am not at all concerned with individual racists. I don't give a crap how you feel about me, but you're going to respect me, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, it's when they have political power is scary.
And they do,
right? Because then you're just another loudmouth or just another bigot. But it's when they have political power that's when these people are that's when they're scary. I mean, and I think that's why the demonstration was so dangerous. That's why the Republican Party is getting so dangerous, because they're increasingly catering to those communities. After the 2012 election, the GOP came out with a report. I can't remember what they called it, but basically it was them coming out and saying, we need to reach out to Black people. We need to reach out to women and Latinos. We need to reach out to gay people. And this is going to plan moving forward. And then Donald Trump came out, and for lack of a better phrase, he wiped his with all of it. Republican base was like, no, we don't want to reach out to these communities. We want to see them on equal footing, zero-sum game. And they cashed Trump. I don't know. It's you always want to hope for what's with the Republican Party, and they always say no worse than you thought. I don't know.
Doesn't it have to come to a head though? Like, can you think of a social change, like a real social change that has happened throughout history without some kind of war? I can't think of one. That's not
at least without violence. No, I mean, right. Malcolm X, power concedes nothing without it. And it never has, it never will. I mean, that's the way it is, right? I mean,
right. And we should have learned. There's a. It's gonna sound terrible because I was arguing with a rabbi the other day.
It was a Wednesday.
Mind you, I'm not a person that holds my tongue. I find myself around a lot of faith leaders. I'm a stone cold atheist. They all know it. But
real quick, liberation starts shedding the religion of the colonizer.
Thank you. And like, it's the very first oppressive system that ever existed. So like, why?
Yeah, like they literally came with their gun or Bible. It's like step 1, step 2, Bible. Bible's been here, right? There was a quote in the movie, the Pancho Villa movie. He says, Spain brought 2 things to Mexico, the Bible and the whip. And I remember my father saying, yeah, they brought the same thing to Puerto Rico. That's what it was, the Bible and the whip. And that's, you get.
It's what they do. So I don't even understand what the complication is, but there's a complication. So do what you're going to do. We have the same mission. We have similar hearts. They just have different beliefs. And that's something that I can concede on, right? Yeah, I definitely can't compromise with people that want to see me dead. I can't compromise with those people, but I can compromise.
You don't want to just hear what they have to say?
Yeah, right? No, I'm afraid not. So this guy posted, lovely person, rabbi.
This human being.
He is a wonderful person. He really is.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. Nobody else. That's right. No, I don't want to diss. No, go ahead.
He posted a MLK quote. And it's one of those quotes that, frankly, white folks like to post that sound like
very flat.
N-word behave. That's what it sounds like.
Cute.
I was trying not to. Right. It was, this is why you should behave, right? And my whole point was, okay, so if you want to talk about civil rights, right? First of all, MLK was a figurehead. Right. There was Black women like Ella Baker that did not believe in any of the shit that he was spewing. They went along with it because the masses went along with it because people are religious and you concede where you have to. Right. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is not everybody in the movement believed that. And a lot of those people were correct. And I'll tell you why they were correct, because everything that was won in the civil rights movement is now gone. They are writing Jim Crow right now into legislation in new and special ways. And the Voting Rights Act was gutted under Obama. Mm-hmm. So like, what did we actually get from civil rights?
It was Bill Clinton said he wanted welfare as we know it.
Right. I'm not doing all that peacefully. Yes.
There we go. There's a book called The Myth of Liberal Illegitimacy, written by William Domhoff. He's one of the greatest scholars in this country. And he says, look, when we talk about this, particularly in the post-war era, in the era following the New Deal, there's this narrative that the left took off, that workers were winning. And it's like, no, these were concessions that the corporate right was willing to give us. I'm a believer in the New Deal. I think the New Deal was definitely I have criticisms of the New Deal. It was definitely good for this country. But there's this narrative that's coming out that there was this power to the left, and it's like it was accommodation to the corporate right. It was Roosevelt saying, you have a choice, make these concessions, you get the Soviet option. And they said, oh my God, let these people healthcare, want to end up like the Russians did. And that's really what it is. So you can check out the book, The Myth of Liberal Ascendancy, William Domhoff. I love me some William Domhoff.
I have not heard of him, so I definitely will. I love a new book. Right now, I'm reading. Yeah. Right now,
what do we got? What's the good?
Why Women Have Better
Why
Sex
Women Have Sex Under Socialism. That is the greatest title ever. We're done. That's it, folks. We're done tonight. We're done. That's the title. Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism.
It's Kristen Godsey. Ghodsee.
I have the selected works of Mao Zedong. Peanuts.
Does he talk about sex under socialism? Because she has.
It's in the back. It's in the back of the book. It's in the back.
But that's how I spend my spare time.
How do you like the book? How do you like the book?
It's a great book, actually. I'm only about 2 chapters in, but it's
go ahead. Hold it up again.
It's
is it
really
one story?
good.
Is it like an edited? Is it like an anthology? One story? Is it all one author or a collection of authors?
It's long form essay almost.
Okay.
It's kind of heady. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of heady and what's the word? I'm like academic.
A lot of that can be like
he is an academic. So at least the very beginning reads a lot like a thesis statement. Mm-hmm. And then she goes into proving her thesis, but she also has like a great sense of humor and she's quirky and fun and I love it. So
that sounds really fun. I'm gonna talk to my wife about it, see if she's heard it. She'd be like, why are you buying me this book? And then we'll see,
because it's a great book.
No, I'll definitely look into it. I wasn't expecting that. That's the greatest title I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, well, hey, why are socialists? Exhibit A.
Because sex is better. Obviously.
I rest my case. We're done.
And if you're gonna buy it, can you please buy it from the Co-op bookstore in Asbury?
Yeah. Try to support your local booksellers. I mean, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, that guy has more money than God. Right, he uses all his money to exploit. The guy's got more money than anybody, and he's not invested in his own employees. So yeah, buy from your local booksellers. Try to get it directly from the publisher. Try to avoid Amazon when you can, folks. Amazon is a reality.
Right, Words on Christian Avenue is an actual co-op. Blue Stockings in New York actually just co-opted. So co-op is amazing. We like cooperative economics. We're all trying to pull ourselves up and not concern ourselves with the capitalist nonsense. Why are socialists?
Always. Revolution Radio is an anti-capitalist program, and we try to stick it to the man every way we can. One more thing I wanted to bring up to you was a local issue that came out this week, and I promised my wife I wouldn't be so vicious. I would tone down some of my rage, but it came out this week that a local vice principal of the Neptune Middle School is currently, I don't want to say being investigated, but he's getting a stern talking to because a video released of him and his wife, the Philly era. I guess they were at a restaurant. They were eating or drinking, and the wife went into the restroom and saw a trans woman in the bathroom and had a complete meltdown. They caught the meltdown on camera, and when the wife kept harping on it, somebody basically said, take it elsewhere. And this Michael Smurrow guy, vice principal of Neptune Middle School, threw beer on the people complaining. So now getting investigated. So I have to ask you, Jennifer, as a woman of color, as a mother of Black children, I mean, what person did wasn't racist.
Woman, how about that?
Oh, you okay? So you have a trans daughter. Okay, so like
I do.
What this person did was not necessarily racist, but it was bigoted and it was hate. Right. So as the mother of a trans daughter, I mean, do you feel that trans children are safe? They'll get the protection they need under this guy's watch? Like, I don't know how to respond to this. The guy needs to step down.
For sure. So it's a multi-level thing, right? So first of all, his wife also works in Howell School District. So that's another issue.
His wife's in Howell?
Yeah, she's a cafeteria lady in Howell
Cafeteria
District.
lady.
So, yeah, she has direct contact with our children under less obligation than teachers, right? So she doesn't have to shut her mouth. She can say
How
whatever.
about paying for school lunches? Is she one of those mean anti-school lunch people? Now we
Yeah, right. Like like whatever. She also needs to be the hell out of
Yeah.
the school system. She has no business there.
More
We
so
don't
than
do
her
bigots
husband.
in school. Right. I first of all, I saw the article because my daughter, my trans daughter, posted it and was like, see, this is why like Neptune Middle School is so hard, right?
Yeah.
That this is why I hated it. And I read the article and I immediately hopped on the phone with someone I know from the Neptune school board. And I was like, so what are you doing with the guy? What's the situation?
What up?
And she was like, okay, we talked about it and it's being left up to the superintendent because it's a disciplinary issue, right? It's not something you can just talk over and decide. It's a disciplinary issue. So we're going to see what he does and we'll keep you in the loop. I was like, okay, but you got, because
got to make the choice. So we all know what the choice is.
Listen, my inbox started pinging that same day and people are ready to march. Like people are ready to put their shoes on. So you better figure out what you're going to do with that guy. Besides the fact that his wife is a bigot and he defended his bigot wife. He actually did not say anything that was transphobic. He did not say anything that was bigoted. So there is that argument. He threw beer on people that pissed him off. And then he's supposed to go to school and discipline kids and tell them not to.
Could you imagine getting like, could you imagine?
You don't need him for anything.
Could you imagine you're like a 12-year-old kid sitting in detention for food fighting and he put you there? I'd be like, my dude, your wife is.
Any one of my kids would have tore him up. I wish you would try to put me in. You go to detention. How about that? You coming with me? Where's your detention? So like he better get some kind of discipline because that's what an example is that.
Yeah. And I always support teachers. I believe in public education. My wife's a teacher. I tried to get public education, but this is what frustrates me is I couldn't get a job in public education with a master's degree, being bilingual, teach second grade, teaching Spanish. And then we have this old man who just like his wife's a bigot and this guy's making a living. And it's like his wife didn't become a bigot yesterday. His wife didn't wake up and become a bigot. His wife has been a bigot. Right. Which means like, who do we need to talk to in this district? People of color wise or trans gay people to say in shady. Right. You don't just wake up one day and you're a scumbag. There's a history there. So like, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to start pointing fingers. I want to start pointing fingers, but I'm not going to start pointing fingers. But like, we really need to the leadership of that district. Like, how do you not know who this was? Like, who the bigots are in your everyday life.
Well, when I called the person that I know on the school board in Neptune, I said, listen, my daughter's been out of school for a while, but when she was in school, I was there all the time. I was there all the time. And I was told by the administration that she was causing her own problems. And if she would dress like a boy, then we wouldn't have these problems. And she was being inflammatory. And as long as no one is touching her on school property, I said, okay, but they chase her off of school property. And then so if something happens to her between here and my house, who's responsible then? Oh, well, then you have to call the police. That doesn't have anything to do with us. And then I started screaming at this man. And he said, which honestly, I think it's this guy. I can't remember his name though. I'm screaming at him and he said, Miss Lewinsky, if you don't stop screaming, I'm going to have to call the police. I said, why? I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. So obviously nothing is happening here. There is no problem if I'm not touching you. If you don't protect my daughter under this roof, I'm going to hurt one of y'all. I'm not even kidding. Like this will be Jennifer Middle School. I'm not.
No, but like I hear it's again, and we're pretty much out of time. It's like in this country, there are people that like to target powerless communities, right? And it's as long as
women are at the bottom of the
if we're targeting Black trans men, Jews, immigrants, if we spend time targeting these communities, then we're not going after the real problems in society, right? Well, blaming trans people for your problem is just it's sloppy, it's lazy, and it's bigoted.
America is listen, we're not good at anything anymore except gaslighting. We are great at gaslighting. So when we say we're the greatest country in the world, that's what we're talking about. We are the greatest gaslighters in the entire world, because if you tell us what's wrong, we will deflect the crap out of it and turn it into.
We could always blame somebody else. We love calling people call out race in this country. We're at a time here, Jennifer. Yeah, right. But by that definition, I guess I'm the racist for calling out racism. It's always
every
some
day.
nonsense. But
no, Warren,
but Jennifer,
I'm not Puerto Rican, but hi.
Right.
Yes.
Jennifer, I have to say thank you for coming on tonight. It was
no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so fun to talk to. Anytime you want to come back on, it's an open invitation. Anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to add? Anything you want to mention before we head out?
My nonprofit is aptransformativejustice.org, and we're always taking donations, and we've been struggling since the pandemic hit. So if anyone wants to donate, I have a guy that I would really love to help with housing, and that would be amazing.
aptransformativejustice.org.
Yes.
Listening out there, normally this is where I say, please donate to New Jersey Revolution Radio. Please on the editorial board. And we want you to do that. You could give us $5 and tell 5 people about our programming. That'd be great. But if you have a couple extra, please give them to AP. You said aptransformativejustice.org.
Yes.
Okay. Again, thanks for coming on, Jennifer. My name is Christian Perez. Great to host NJRR live tonight. If you can, please give a Transformative Justice. Please give to the editorial board, and please donate. njrevolutionradio.com/donate. I want to say thank you to the crew. Thank you to Brian. Thank you to Leah for all your hard work. I am Christian Perez. You can check me out on Twitter at Perez Podcast. Thank you and good night.
Thrown against the car, handcuffed, and that's what happened last night.
The police kicked in the door, shot him twice in the chest, and died.
Before you knew it, we had 500 families. We had over 100 volunteers calling us. We were on the phone constantly.
And I can't get it. And I got one police department telling me they don't know who's in charge. I got another police department here. Everybody's got a gun, and nobody knows who's in charge. Did anybody figure out who's in charge yet? Is there anybody in charge here? Any police officer in charge? Are you in charge? I can't find anybody in charge. That's the problem.